So when I watched last year's senior shepherds give their testimonies, why are y'all recording me? Okay, when I watched last year's senior shepherds give their testimonies, I swore to myself that I would have no regrets at the end of my SNY shepherding role. But it seems that I failed to keep that promise. Whether it be not praying enough or not being proactive enough or even failing to keep in contact throughout the week, I've had so many shortcomings and I truly do wish I made more of an effort to get closer with all of my house church members. However, I think it's important to note that God's timing is perfect. Sorry. My experiences and shortcomings are dark places where God's light can shine brightest. I'll start my testimony about my shepherding journey by telling everyone about God's sense of humor. There's a specific memory from 6th grade where Jonathan, my current co-shepherd, and I were talking about our future roles in house church, and I adamantly told him, bro, there's no way I'm becoming shepherd. That's never happening. Fun fact, we also used to have beef because of his unending sass and a very specific bug spray incident that he won't let me live down, but we're basically siblings now with a healthy co-shepherding relationship. So guys, just trust in God even if the means seem a bit shady. Regarding the topic of trusting in God, it was rather hard to believe that I had been chosen as the next shepherd for Zion 5, as I lacked basic innate traits such as empathy and true selflessness during that time. This mask is so hard to breathe in, sorry. My childhood put up scars in my heart, and I built up walls in hopes of protecting myself, but these walls only festered my wounds. I questioned why I was chosen to lead when I could barely manage my own day-to-day life, much less the complexities of other people's emotions. Honestly, I can't even pinpoint every exact event that initiated change within myself, especially since growth happens over a period of time rather than an instant. In fact, I still continue to struggle with clinical depression and anxiety and more, but healing is in fact a process. While I grew around my grief and anger, I learned that there is joy in tribulation, and it is during those times of hardship that God's grace shines brightest, even if you only see it later. It is with utmost sincerity that I tell you, God can work through anyone, regardless of their past and current struggles. Though I had attended house church since 6th grade, becoming a shepherd put a new perspective upon house church and the obligation to facilitate vulnerable sharing and create interpersonal relationships fell upon me. As I tried my best to fulfill this role, all of the prayers from our adult leaders took motion during the Shepherd's Retreat of 2021, and I began to open my heart and truly let God's love flow all the way in. With a love for house church that I had failed to feel or see before, laughter became second nature as I learned to find joy in the people God put into my life. As I learned how to cry again, my house church listened to every choked word, and they showed me what it means to care and serve, even through silence and quiet understanding. Every Saturday, we shared the bits and pieces from our brokenness, each shard reflecting God's light through the darkness of this world. And with these pieces, we created beautiful sculptures with the bonds called love. However, I could not dictate this process through my own volition, all I could do was watch in awe as God worked his powers through the broken vessel that was me. As a shepherd, I was to pour God's overflowing love into this house church, yet oftentimes I found my own cup being endlessly filled by the streams and rivers God purposely put into our house church. There's actually a saying in Korean that goes, 개천에서 용난다, which essentially translates to a dragon rises up from a small stream. Even though dragons in Asian mythology come from great lakes and vast oceans, I now personally know that God can make dragons out of the smallest of streams. All one must do is open your heart to him. Though I will say other variables played into my personal development, one of the greatest factors that contributed to my growth was shepherding, where God raised a dragon, that being my capacity to love, from a shallow puddle that had been dirtied by hurt, anger, and shame. And as my metaphorical dragon learned how to spread its wings and fly, it found a family whose love reflected the heart that God has for me. A family that goes by the name of Zion 5.